Welcome to DCPC Live presents Scene Support, the podcast that spotlights the people behind the scenes who keep DIY and underground music alive. From the bookers and the sound techs to the zine writers and venue operators, we're here to give credit where it's long overdue. I'm your host, Scott Pash, founder of DCPC Live, a DIY label documenting live punk, hardcore, ska, and metal through short-run vinyl releases. After decades in bands behind the scenes, I've learned that scenes don't survive on music alone. They survive because people built infrastructure, take care of each other, and imagine something bigger than a show flyer or a lineup. Today, we are meeting with one of those people who help support the scene through their amazing photography, as well as their kindness and general awesomeness. I've known Aaron Stoquert for about a year or so from his band, The Snorts, before he came to me and asked me to take photos of the Rally in the Valley Volume 1. I quickly learned that he had once regularly taken photos of wrestling matches and that he was now looking to dig deep on live punk, hardcore, ska, and metal shows. My answer was an easy yes, and to say that his photos were dope and have only gotten better with each show would be an understatement. Aaron travels throughout New York and to various festivals, taking live shots of bands that demonstrate why live music is as much visual as it is auditory. And while his work has seemed to trend toward live shots, he's also been delving into taking pose and candid photos off the stage. So let's dig in and find out what has driven Aaron to put in the time, miles to support the scene, the only way a skilled photographer can. What's going on, Aaron?
What's going on, Scott? What a lovely intro. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you for
sir. I love you. And your Put.Over.Photo. I love that your image is pink, like your Put.Over.Photo picture.
Yeah, I figured that, just got to keep it consistent, right?
Yeah, like your sticker, I meant. So, although I just had to make it bigger because it was small, and it reminded me too much of your sticker because it was so small.
So there's been this that's what's called an inside joke. So Scott consistently gives me shit for my little stickers that I have that I pass out at shows and wherever to link to my Instagram, and he's like, these are way too small, and you need stickers like mine, like huge, massive stickers that could power a sailboat on the Pacific Ocean. And he's like, you need them this big, so people can see them. And yeah, I don't know. I happen to think that the pocket size sticker fits anywhere you want to put it, which is great.
I mean, they are technically bigger than a button. So
Sure, right.
And people do wear buttons.
Yeah. I think you're trying to innovate a, if a sticker were a blanket type of situation, and if we could just wrap ourselves in the sticker, then maybe that's the size we want to go for. So I think you might be onto something there. So
I mean, what do you prefer your photographs small or big?
Depends on the photo.
Okay. All right, so let's start. Like, I like to get into musical journeys first. Why don't we start with your musical journey, if you don't mind? Like, I mean, I know, obviously you're in the punk scene here, but I think your musical interest might be broader than that as well. So why don't you delve us into who you are as a musical person before we get into how your photography connects to that?
Just like my love of music in general?
Anything. You can start at the beginning, like what you listen to in utero. Okay. You can talk about the high school years that everybody loves to lament and talk about. Sure. You can talk about last week. I don't really care. Just talk about your musical soul at whatever stage you wish to do so at.
Sure. Yeah, I come from a musical family, and my dad was a drummer for he's still alive, but he was a drummer in a band for a 9-piece funk band in Central New York for many years, and so growing up, I did not get like, here's the White Album, here's Rubber Soul, it was more of like, here's a drum video by Dennis Chambers and Steve Weckl, and here's how you do paradiddles, and here's what improvisation is for a drummer and what that means. So like so we grew up watching these VHS tapes of drum instructor videos, we being myself and my brothers and sister, and just my dad had a drum set in the house, in the garage, in the basement, set up all the time, and there was like, how much can we get away with playing this kit until someone tells us to stop, and then when I was like 15, I got so I started on the drums, and then when I was 15, I got a guitar from a friend who was like getting rid of it. He didn't want it, and I started playing that, and the blues was something that I was really, really fascinated with. I was like, you can do that? You can just like wail away on on a guitar like that with, you don't have to sing, you can just do that. So I got really interested in that. That's when I started
Okay,
playing
rad.
guitar. Yeah. And then my little brother, when he was like 8 or so, or maybe 7, again, messing around with my dad's drum kit, and my dad had an electric drum kit that he never plugged in. He used it as a practice pad. And so my little brother would start playing on the practice pad when he was really, really young. And so I'd get out there with my new guitar and my shitty guitar skills, and we would just sound like clicky clacky cling, just terrible, just noise all over the place, but couldn't get enough of it. And joined bands in high school, joined bands and all over the place, and tried to play music as much as possible. Did like a solo thing where I had like just folk, what I called Southern Gothic folk, songs that were mainly about zombies. So it was like me playing, not instrumental, but a solo acoustic type of thing with I don't know, folk inspired type
Do you
shit.
have
So
any of that stuff recorded?
yeah, you can find it under my name. It's out there. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There was some things that are there. There's some things that are out there. I still think it's cool. But yeah, and then got into and then someone finally introduced me to the Beatles and all the music that, all the songwriter music and punk and all that type of stuff, and went from there. And then can't get enough of it. Still can't get enough of music. Like, I think last year, Scott, I don't know how many bands it was, but it was a lot of bands
We saw a
that,
lot of bands last year.
yeah. And every night when I would come back, or if we came back from a festival, it wasn't like, man, I'm whipped. I was like, when is the next one? Let's go.
You are
So
a machine. I will tell you that. Like when we were at RPM Fest and I am passing out snoring, you were luckily you're not sleeping because you couldn't. You're up until like 2 a.m. still plying away.
yeah.
I mean, you're a beast, but like, I mean, I did 35, 36 shows this year, and I can only think of one show that you missed because you had to go out of town or something like that to Florida or what nonsense.
Yeah. Yep.
But then you went to almost every festival I went to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were basically almost connected at the hip. I mean, it's actually been quite a pleasure having you. It's like,
It's been a
I
blast.
just kind of count on you being there now. It's like, oh, Aaron's just supposed to be there.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've talked with other photographers like Dave, Face Photo, and Luis, Lunatic Pics, and those folks. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if I mean, it's probably someone knows what it is. It's adrenaline. That's what it is. It's adrenaline that you're feeding off of. But there's just something about coming back from, whether it's a show at Snappers, or especially like I remember RPM Fest, we rolled into my driveway at like 1:45 in the morning or something like that, and my fiance was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I was like, "Ah, this is the best day we ever said," and it's like, and I was like, "So Scott, you want to come hang out?" And you're like, "I gotta go home, dude. We just spent 3 days together." But I don't know. It's that anticipation of it's the anticipation of seeing what you got as a photographer, but then in a bigger, less egocentric type of answer, it's more of like, hey, everybody, look at what just happened. This was a really cool thing and if you weren't able to get out to it, like we want to make sure that you feel some sort of the 10%, 15% of the energy that was in the room. If it's like a Snapper show, it would be, hey man, it felt like there was 1,500 people at the bar and it was awesome. And that's where it is.
And when you say things like that, it echoes like the reason like I do live albums, because I want that moment, that energy to matter. And as I hear you saying that, it makes me like almost regret the fact that I followed the VML aesthetic and done very basic covers instead of getting a great photographer to take amazing live photos to make sure that the music matched the video. But that's neither here nor there. As you were talking, I started so many thoughts. One of the thoughts was, you're so locked in, right? I go to lots of shows too, and I will not deny that every now and then my attention might wander. I might have to deal with something because I'm running the show or need to talk to someone. But do you think being a photographer makes you pay attention more? And because you're paying attention more, you're enjoying it more than almost anyone else, because you're kind of locked in. You're not getting distracted. You're not looking at your phone to see what time it is or if anyone texted. You're not looking to go to the bathroom or get another drink, and you're just locked in.
Yeah. And I think it's twofold. It is I am insatiably fascinated with music, full stop. So there's that part of it that locks in. So when a band hits the stage, it's like, okay, what are you going to sound like? And not from like a judgy, like, what are you going to say? It's more of like,
More
it's
like a
more,
curiosity, like, I cannot wait to hear what this sounds like.
right, right. And my favorite ones are when bands are either like huge, massive. It's like how many people are in this band, and then the other side is the complete opposite, where it's 2 to 3 people, and you're like, okay, interesting, here we go, because you're not painting with a whole lot of colors here, so let's see where we go, at least initially, from not hearing a single note. I think of shark noises like that. Shark noises hit the stage and you're like, damn, that is not at all what I was
There's a
expecting, and
lot
this
of fucking
rips.
happening from 2 people.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's awesome. So that side of it is locked in, where there's a musical piece to it. The photography side of it is me trying to go, okay, so I've heard, the first song that you're playing. How do I capture what energy you're putting out that way with an image? And then usually the first song, if I haven't seen the band before, I try to watch and see, like, okay, who's putting the show on? Who's the one who is playing to the crowd? And if there isn't anybody in particular who's playing to the crowd, who's the one who is the heartbeat of what's on stage right now? And I'm really trying hard to figure out, where is the band getting their cues from? Having being in a band myself, there's 1 or 2 people who are driving the energy off the stage.
Okay.
And so I'm looking for who that person is. And then subsequently, I'm looking for the person who is like, I don't want to be on stage. I'm terrified, but I'm here, and here I am. And how do I capture that person in a way that is honest, but also is in a way that isn't like, everybody wants cool photos. And so you don't want, to have a photo out there that whatever you might be feeling, whatever anxiety you might be feeling, you don't want that necessarily to come through in the photo. So there's a bunch of things that keep me fascinated while someone's on stage. And then by the time, the set's over, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to go down, sit down for 15 minutes, and then we're down to the next one. And it's totally different, which is great.
And it doesn't like exhaust you, because like locking in with that level of focus would cause some people to get tired.
Oh yeah, no, I get tired.
Okay.
Let's not. Yeah, let's not. Yeah, no, I get tired. Let's be very clear about that. But I think when you're tired and you're doing something that doesn't hold your complete attention, we've all been there, right? I'm gonna rake the lawn. Like, I'm not necessarily fascinated by this, but I have to do this. I mean, I don't have to.
So it's got to be
probably
done.
should.
So I'm going to do it, and
right.
yada yada.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're doing something like that, there's going to be a point where you're like, and you know what? I'm done. With photography, and especially music photography, there's not really a moment where I'm like, you know what? I'm done. It's like, all right, cool. Let's keep it coming, because I feel like I would like to capture something really cool. And if y'all are going to put a show on, let's rock and roll with it and go. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it definitely does. So I have a couple, so many questions come up. It's like I should be taking like notepads. One thing I posted, like, the announcement for the rally in the Valley coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through and I looked pictures of last year's, and I found your pictures, and I found some great ones that you had done.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first show's pictures of yours I've ever seen, other than, ones you might've done prior. And I feel like you've transitioned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more effects that you're doing. I don't know if that's the right phrase for it, with the lights and angles. How has your photo shooting changed? And I mean, gosh, it's not even a year since is it fair to say you restarted taking pictures around the time of the rally, or were you doing it?
Yeah, so it is fair to say
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I started taking photos in 2018, and I've been taking photos, not professionally my whole life, but I got a camera when I was like 16 or something, and I've pictures of, me kind of, if you've seen me at shows, I did that around my house to my like parents and my brother. I just like go up and like stick a camera in their face, and they're like, what's going on? So I have like, I have those images still, and those were on film. So I've always been, it's like music and photography have been the two things that music just is something that I've always just like really, really latched onto. Photography's been there, and every time I do something with photography, I'm like, oh right, I really, 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 this is another passion of mine. There was a point where I almost quit music and did photography, like full stop, before my band started. There was almost no band that happened. So I think this is important to highlight, though. Rally in the Valley last year was the first time that I had picked up a camera and did something at an event in a number of years. And part of that was being burnt out from the last time that I was doing photos. I was taking professional wrestling photos. I was doing ringside stuff. And I wasn't mentally prepared for I wasn't prepared for the commitment of, hey, can we get those photos? Can you edit them? I didn't have a process. I didn't have anything. That I was just kind of winging it. And I was like, yeah, and eventually it got to a point where it just burned me out. And then, I was like, I'll just take a break from there. And that's when I really just started focusing on music for that. When Rally in the Valley came up last year, it was like, you know what? I feel like I could do this again. I feel like I'm more, mentally equipped to be able to compartmentalize and get a process into place that doesn't, suck up my entire life, even though it may seem like that from the outsider. It's like, do you sleep at all? But I do. So, and I think it's important to highlight that, because it's okay to take a break, is what I want to try to get across here. Is it's okay to take a break. You don't have to. I feel like, especially with social media, especially with how we've taken the Spotification of music, and it's like you have to be doing something all the time, every day, every hour, every minute. If you're not doing something, you suck. Fuck you. That whole thing, and
Yes.
stop. It's okay to just take a breather for a second, or a couple of years, or whatever it is, to get your mind right. And a friend of mine always refers to it as just kind of just recharging those creative batteries. And if you're burnt out on music, maybe take some photos. If you're burnt out on music and photos, play some video games, read a book, do something that is different from what you have been doing, if you feel like you're burned out on that. So yes, long-winded answer to say Rally in the Valley. It was a number of years for the first time that I picked up the camera, but I got home and I said to my fiance, I was like, we got a problem. I'm now locked way in on this. So I just told Scott I'd be at every one of his shows, and she was like, all right. So
And then she's like, well, Scott's only like up to that point. I'd done maybe 12 shows the year before, and I was doing a monthly show. I was like, oh, maybe it'll be a couple shows. And you had no idea from that point on that it'd be like, oh, he's got like 8 shows in June. And
it's all right. It's all right. Like I said, like it's a privilege, and it's something that we can't take for granted. The idea that you can go into a public space and there be loud music, there be creative people, there is art happening. We can't take that for granted, because it's not guaranteed. And so, so when there's 8 shows in June, and it's like, Jesus Christ, Scott, how many more shows are you going to book, bro? Like, but every single one of them is a blast. And yeah, man, it's great.
I appreciate that. So you answered the kind of like the trail end of my question, because I think I'd started off saying how I think your photography has transitioned. So that was April. We're in January. So that's like 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of 9 months. And I don't have that aesthetic vocabulary to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But I immediately saw the difference. Like, it didn't mean that the photos of Rally were any worse. They were just stylistically different.
They're terrible.
So how has your style changed, and where do you see it going?
Yeah. No, sorry, I definitely skirted that.
No. You had to clarify that first point, because I was
Yeah,
like, I was a little hesitant. I was like, I'm pretty sure the Rally in the Valley was your like
yeah,
comeback story almost. Like it was your like return to photography.
yeah. Um, there definitely is a an evolution to it, and it comes down to go to what I was kind of talking about earlier, where the energy that's coming off of the stage and trying to match that energy. I was coming back to that rally last year with professional wrestling eye and saying, all right, this is how I shot professional wrestling. Let me see if that translates over to punk and what you're doing with DCPC. So and I think that it did, and I think I'm proud of those photos. I like those photos, but it's always like incrementally, okay, how can we do it just a little bit better? And how can we get to a place where there's always a shot in my mind that I try to, before each show. If I look up the band and I'm like, one I'm thinking of is Car Bomb Parade, right? I know Nicky's going to lose his mind and go all over the place. And I
Yes.
know, so in my head going into that show, it was, okay, how can I capture the essence of his front man style? And I had a few shots where it's like, if I can get something like this or something like this, I'm going to be happy. And that's what you're chasing. It's really a chase in my mind, so in the grand scheme of things, it's that chase of, okay, the energy was there last April. I liked what I was getting as far as the framing goes. However, there seems to be a little something else that I feel like we can bring out of it. And for the photography nerds, and it's like I wanted to do a little bit more shutter drag, which some people say, when I'll have folks ask about, how do you get the lights in there? Some people think like I go into Photoshop and like scribble all over the photos and do that. I don't do that. It's all in camera, but it's also not a technique that I invented. It's been around forever, and especially popular in like the early 90s hardcore scene, where it was a lot of this kind of like ghosting type effect and all of that. So once I started saying, okay, I wonder if I could convey some sort of energy that way, and let me try a few things. Again, going back to when you start that show with an idea in your mind, or you start that journey with an idea in your mind of an image you want to capture, that's how that kind of went from there. Like, let me get a really, really cool shutter drag image just from one band and see where we're at and go from there. Then, you start to explore that more. All right, that was cool. What can I do if I change the lens and do more of a fisheye instead of a wider, like flatter type of lens, and go from there. So, and then landing on other things, like looking at shapes that people make when they're on stage or playing, and trying to compose the image in that way, where is if someone's bend. I'm thinking of an image from Escape Rope,
Yes.
where the guy I forget the guy's name, I'm sorry, Escape Rope, but the guitar player was really bent over and looking at his pedal board and using shutter drag to kind of like paint with light and wrapping him in the light from his pedal board, and it made this like really cool outline while his head was like bent down and stuff. And I was like, that's a really, really cool kind of shape that I'm going for with that. So to answer your question, yeah, it's constantly evolving, and I've even more recently, the later shows that you did later in 2025, I started bringing an 85 millimeter lens and getting really, really up close while being really far back. And that does something to the images as well, compresses it and goes from there. So trying to play with, if the light of the lead singer is behind, like over here, can I get a really cool silhouette type of thing from far back while also being really tight in on the face? And there was a few images that we got
Okay.
from there. Yeah. So little changes here and there, and just trying to not be complacent.
Do you plan before you go? Like, if you haven't seen bands, you watch videos or listen to their music to get an idea, or do you just come in totally flat-footed, figuring you're just going to respond to the moment and just whatever new thing you're trying to try, or whatever consistent process you would use before? Like, what's your process when you're going to a show? What are you thinking? How's that work for you?
It's rare that I'll look up videos of a band. I want to be surprised. I want that spontaneity. I want to be able to chase someone, especially in a show like a Snappers show or a Ruckus show or even a Night Swim show. I want that spontaneity, and I want to be able to run around and follow folks and go from there. The only time that I'm really going to look up a band or look up something is if it's a band like Ghoul or Guar, where it's like, oh, you've got costumes and you've got a performance and you've got a show that you're putting on. I want to just see what that looks like, and I'll kind of, explore that for a little bit. But I also want to be surprised at those shows too. But that's a little that's a little different when, like, at RPM when Ghoul played, and you're like, okay, there's gonna be a lot of blood, there's gonna be a lot of costume changes, there's gonna be a lot of
Yes,
this stuff.
it was a lot.
So yeah, so like knowing I wanted to be in the front row for the first 4 or 5 songs, then I wanted to get some side stage, wanted to get some behind the scenes and do that. That's how I was kind of approaching the festivals are more planning than the shows at like Snappers and Ruckus and Night Swim and those type of things, because I think the festivals you're looking for, in my mind, I'm looking for like cinematic type of scenes and really, really big kind of, Vista-esque, imagery, almost putting a musician up on this grandiose stage even more than they already are on, where the smaller venue shows are more like, um can it can I make the image feel like you're standing this far away from Nicky from Car Bomb Parade while he's pouring a beer on your head? You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference between the two. So,
Do you ever? I mean, how does it affect you to see the same band? Because you mentioned spontaneity, and there are some bands like, we're gonna just keep plugging Nicky from Car Bomb Parade, where
sure.
even though he's gonna be energetic, it's not inherently the same every time. I would say RB Next is one of those sort of bands. Um, like, how do you prevent yourself from going, okay, I've seen this band and their stage behavior
Mm-hmm.
is so consistent that does it ever get hard for you to get excited to take more photos when you've already seen them 3 or 4 times and their stage show is the same?
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
Because every performance is different. Even if even if a band tries to be as consistent as possible, there's going to be something that's different. And I'm thinking of, like, I shot Negative Racks 2 days in a row, and it was the same set, and it was the same group of people. It was the lineup didn't change, right?
Yeah.
So like 2 days in a row. However, the second day there was a moment, and now you start looking for moments. So you go, okay, cool. I saw this set last night. Tonight we're going to see it again, and now you start looking for moments that you didn't get the night before. And one of them was Zoots having a moment to himself, where he was in a crouch position and his head was down.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Such a great fucking picture.
Thank you. And that picture almost didn't happen because I saw Zoots doing that. It was in between songs, and I was standing up. I wasn't even crouched down next to him. I was standing next to him, and I'm like, oh, that's a reflective moment. And then the thing in my brain kicked off, like, you are a photographer, you have a camera. I'm like, oh, right, photo. so, so so you're looking for moments too, though, even though that was more of like that kind of jumped up into my face. But yeah, it's like, it'd be like saying, aren't you sick of the chords that you have available to you when you're playing guitar? No, I'm not.
No, I get it. I didn't mean to be. I wasn't trying to be negative. I was just trying to, get a grasp. Like, because I see, I see the same bands all the time. And I see them all the time because I love them. But I'm also, I don't know, I feel like I'm enjoying them as much as you are, but I'm not thinking as hard as you are. I'm just letting it wash over me more.
And that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I mean, You asked, like, do I ever get tired? Yeah, it's exhausting when you are, because your shows are like 14 hours long. And so, if you, so if you,
Such an ass.
it's like, oh, it's another DCPC show. What is this? 10 bands tonight? Yeah, that's great. We'll see you there. Yeah, no problem.
Most well, let's be clear. My shows start on time.
They do.
They tend to end on time.
They do.
And those snapper shows, they're actually only about 5 hours long.
No, I mean, I'm kidding around. We have a great time with the shows that you book, and we are thankful for the shows that you book and the scene that's here. However, when you're just there for the music and you're there for the show, man, like let the shit wash over you, do the thing, whatever. Think about the last time you were like really, really looking at something and you're really trying to find, moments in something, or you're just observing something intensely. That's, what it is in half an hour bursts. So, that's why I go to the Chinese spot next door and get some fried rice in between if it's a long show and get the energy back up and go from there. But again, I wouldn't be doing all that if it wasn't just absolutely fascinating and something I absolutely love to do. And it's great when you book mixed bills, because you're like, great, wow, here's 4 horn people, coming into this band. Awesome. The band before was like a doom metal band. Great, awesome. So it keeps it nice when
Keeps it nice. I appreciate that, and I appreciate how like Jay Lynn was like, I need to hire a photographer. I was like, I mean, you can, but pretty sure my photographer will be there. Although I'm sure he'll take your money if you offer it.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
For those that don't know, I do try to provide 15 to 20, if I can get there, photos free of charge for bands that I photograph, especially for your shows that you book. So 15 to 20, because I feel like that if you can't charge for everything. I mean, you certainly can, but I want to give back to the scene. I want to give back to the community, and I want to give back to the people who've been so gracious in welcoming, this, me just kind of coming in and shoving cameras in people's faces. Being like, I'm so sorry, who are you? What are you doing? And so like, so I try to support the scene that way. And if you want to buy the full set, the full album at, the full resolution, come on through. Happy to do that. Happy to go from there, but it's not a requirement.
Or just buy a couple of photos like my wife did for my Christmas presents. So thank you, by the way. Those are fabulous. I have to go out and buy a lot of expensive frames.
Yep, yeah, you do, but it's not. The other thing is too is I don't want people to think that that I'm there to as a potential like, oh, this is a money making situation. It certainly is nice and it's helpful, especially if you're driving all over the place or your camera gear is it's an expensive hobby. But I'm not putting that on anybody else. It's more of like I want to capture what is happening. I will
say that like, as a promoter and a show goer, it is so nice to have photos. I've been doing this a hot minute, and I had 1 or 2 people in DC that kind of came out to shows here and there. And there was a guy in Orlando, Jim Leatherman. He was great, but he was the only one. And he only came out to every so many shows. But having you there and documenting it and then seeing it come out day after day, like, oh, here's this band, and like, it's just out there for everyone to see, and like the bands are sharing it, and it's like, it's such a great way for everyone to just experience it or see what was happening. It's great for the bands. It's great for people like me. It's great for the venues. Like, you're doing something that's incredibly invaluable to support the scene, because telling people there was a show is one thing. Showing them that there was a show is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, and it's something that is. I mean, think about all the cool, iconic images from rock and roll that have been put into the world, and I get asked. I mean, you asked me recently if I do video. I do like to do video, but I do think there's just something really, really cool about a really cool rock and roll picture. just to be able to, I don't know what it is. If you look at something and you're like, man, that show must have been fucking awesome. And I think there are some other like, sports might have it, some iconic, sports photos, and obviously some street photography. It's photography in general, but if you're a music fan, if I say like an iconic rock and roll photo or an iconic music photo, there's something that clicks in your brain that you go right to it, right? It might be Ian MacKaye in the fucking, basketball hoop, or it might be, whatever it is, but yeah, some people, you have that Rolodex in your brain, and that's what I want to provide to not only our local scene, but any scene that will have me come through and take photos, because the bands that are in these shows, the bands that are putting their heart and soul into this music, like, they're putting their heart and soul into it. So document it. Document it and make it cool.
Because it's not even their heart and soul for that 30 minutes they're on stage. You and I are in bands. It's the hours and weeks and months of work that led up to that show. The things you had to give up, the long drives to band practice, the late nights of band practice when you have a job the next day, the balancing band practice when you need first you're gonna help your daughter with her homework, sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the creativity, the confrontation with your bandmates. It's all of that builds up to 1 30-minute set. But you shouldn't be quantified by just that 30 minutes. That 30 minutes is part of the payoff, but you're adding like a cherry on top to it. It's hey, not only did you have a great show, but here is something that you can like keep forever to help you remember the show and remember how you felt and what it was like to be there.
Yeah. I think about the bands that, like, I mean, I love seeing just Carbon Parade is going to get a lot of love in this.
No more Carbon Parade. That's it. Last Carbon Parade.
Right. That's the last one. But bands that have experience in putting on a show and are at a level where it's like, okay, we're not remembering our songs right now, we're performing our songs. We're in a state of just like, this is a anthem, this is a message, this is an important thing that we're putting out, and it's beyond us being like, what was that part in that song? However, what I'll say is, what I try to remember is the bands that are in that, like, what was the part in that song? And that might be their first show. It might be the first time they've ever been on stage. It might be the first time they've ever sung the words that they wrote down in their notebook, and it meant like it was something really deep in their soul. And I'm very aware of that. And that might be their first and last show. They might be like, I don't want to do this ever again, but so I'm so fascinated with the bands that are at that performance level, but I'm also fascinated and want to support the bands that are like, we're here and we don't know how this is going to go.
First time, let's see what happens.
Right, exactly. And like I said earlier, every band wants cool photos, and if you played 100 shows or if you played 2 shows, if you get a cool photo out of any of them, I think that's worth it.
So you had mentioned the festivals, and I could be wrong, correct me if I am, but I feel like Camp Punxsylvania is like the first time you started taking photos extensively off stage. I think you started taking photos of certain bands. There was the skateboarding photo, I think, flying over maybe Hell Beach, maybe some photos of Thick, I think you started doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was the first time I was ever aware of you doing non-live photos. So can you talk about that? Is that something you're leaning towards a little bit, or?
Yeah. So one of my goals in 2026 is to get to enhance my portraiture work as well. So that was an exploration in some of that. So I was doing a little bit of it last year. I was doing a little bit of can I get a cool band portrait? Can I get a cool band photo? The one with Hell Beach where the skateboarder's jumping over Hell Beach. That was, first of all, shout out to Concrete Jungle. Those dudes are awesome. And that was the skateboarder's idea. We were taking photos in the skate park at Camp Pennsylvania with the half pipe behind them, and that was looking cool. And then one of the skaters came up and was like, "Hey, what if I jump over these guys?" And I turned to the band and I was like, "You guys want to get jumped over by the skateboarder?" And they were like, "Can we see him do it first?" So
see, I would have never even thought to say that. I was like, yeah, let's go.
yeah, and so I mean, we did a test one, and he jumped out of the skate park into, where you would go to the second stage, and the band was like, "All right, cool, looks like you cleared it, let's get under there and do it." And so yeah, that is also, the portraiture thing is also something I'm interested in too, because it's really fucking hard to take a good portrait. It's hard, and I'm not great at it, and I want to get better at it. And I learn a lot from my fiance, who's an amazing photographer. So trying to learn more from her. And going back to, every band wants a cool photo. I want to try to figure out what my portraiture style looks like. I've got some ideas, but I know I don't want it to be like band in a field, type of thing.
Band in front of a brick wall, band in front of a statue, band.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
or the one where it's like, you're the guys are like, they're looking down at the thing, or you're looking up at the, it's like, can we do something, different?
How? Like, I've been in bands for years, and I both had people do it for free and people paid. I paid people to like do band photos for whatever, press thing, whatever I needed to be done, or album covers or jackets and yada yada. And like, it always seems so trite and so forced and so just, I don't know. It's like you have to take on a persona or a pose.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, some of the bands on us, and like, you wouldn't take a good photo. You just take a picture of us sitting at Fat Tuesdays, eating some peanuts and drinking some beers. And that's probably the closest to a true photo of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't often stand there with my arms crossed looking scary.
Right.
This is not who I am.
Yeah, I think it's some of it comes down to time, right? It's hard to get the whole band together, and then when the whole band is together, you're like either at a venue, or you're like, I don't know, we need a band photo. We don't have a band photo, so everybody come outside, take a photo. All right, we're done, and go from there. It's a lot harder, I think, to organize, or it can be. It's not necessarily like, but people do it, so it's not. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's not fucking rocket science, but to get bands in a group together, especially if you're, because I've pitched a few ideas. I pitched an idea to Thick, and I pitched an idea to another band, and it's like, I think I need a proof of concept before I do it, because I was like, all right, here's what I want to do, and I laid it all out, and they were like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And I was like, okay, cool, right on. Okay, no problem. But
proof of concept is important. You seem to do something to do it for free and say, hey, these will be deleted if you hate them.
Well, and that's the other thing that I say about the portraits as well, especially as I'm, and I think another thing, I think it's okay to say, like, listen, I'm not great at this. I just want to let you know, and let's not pretend like, it's going to be this amazing portrait that you're going to get. I want to be upfront with bands. And so when I'm taking a portrait of them, I purposely don't share it. Like, I'll share the live photos and collaborate because I'm confident enough in those. And of course, if a band doesn't like or doesn't want a photo, then then we can take that down. That's okay. But with a portrait, I'm very aware of, if a bad portrait goes out, or if you're not vibing with the portrait and someone puts that out, you're like, ooh, that's not. And so what I say to bands is I'm going to send you these, and if you dig them, great. feel free to share them. Here's how I would prefer to be credited if that's possible, and if you can do that. If you hate them, that's okay. I don't want to, there's no obligation for you to share the portraiture. I'm still learning in my portrait photography. So no harm, no foul, on that. I think it's okay to say that.
So you mentioned sharing. I'm fairly sure that most of the time when people share your stuff, they credit you.
Mm-hmm.
Although I feel like as time goes on
Mm-hmm.
and they share a photo from a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
it may not get the credit anymore because it may have lost track of who took the photo.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound about accurate?
It happens all the time.
All the time.
Happens all the time. Yeah, even it doesn't even have to be a year. It could be 3 days afterwards. So it happens all the time.
And how do you handle that? Like, I'm sure like it's got to be frustrating. Like I try really hard,
Mm-hmm.
even with the people that do my flyers, but there's also just sometimes where I just forget.
Yeah, I mean, how do you handle it? You handle it politely and you handle it with grace, and you reach out and you say, "Hey, by the way, that's my photo. If you wouldn't mind, taking a crediting it with this way, that would be great. Thank you." And 99.9% of the time, it's like, "Oh, great, thanks. I did not know who took that photo. Thank you so much." And go from there. And there's I think photography is interesting because everybody's got a camera in their pocket. Therefore, there is this idea that like a photo is a photo is a photo. I could take a photo it's a photo. Everybody's seen a photo. Who gives a shit about a photo, right? And so when it goes out, it's like, yeah, it's a photo. We're going from there. But it all leads up to or what's not seen is what we talked about earlier is how did you get that photo, and what did you do to go from there? And sometimes it's not as easy as it may seem, and that's why I think there's like I wouldn't share a song from a band and not credit them on something because it took them a year to write that song, and you want to credit them and go from there. But
I mean, it's not just the quality of your camera, it's the
yeah,
quality of what you know how to do.
yeah.
So what about when someone takes your picture and then they stretch it out and like maybe highlight a certain part, cut out another part, invert the coloration,
Mm-hmm.
chrysanthemum or whatever it is on Canva?
Sure.
How does that make you feel?
How does it make me feel, or how do I handle it?
Both.
I think it's
Especially if they credit you for it after they just done that to it.
so. I think we're getting into some interesting territory where if you've got if you take an image that that I took and you edit it, modify it, go from there and do the thing, that's not necessarily the art that I want to put out there. So it would be, and if I think the other thing was they credited me and like, here you go, here's the thing. I would like reach out to them and say, hey, look, that's not necessarily the image that I'm looking to, or the art that I'm looking to put out there. So if you wouldn't mind removing the credit, like keep the photo up. I mean, you modified it, and that's cool, and do your thing with that. But that's not necessarily what I'm trying to put out as Put.Over.Photo, and go from there. So I think that's important because with photographers, really Instagram and our website is really all we got as far as that goes. And if like, I love the credit, thank you so much. However, if I'm trying to book a band, or I'm trying to book something, and I've been reaching out with them and they might see that image, they go, did you do that? Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're trying to do with my band? It's like, that's not necessarily what I'm trying to do with your band. I'm trying to do this other thing. And so now you're redirecting and going from there. So, yeah, but again, then the like the thing comes out where it's like you're modifying an image and you're going from there, and we talk about remixes. People remix the songs, and there's a cover song, it's interpretation, it's the whole thing.
I'm a
So
big fan of
I dig
Creative
it.
Commons. I'm a big
Right.
fan of like, being able to reuse and remix and redo stuff. I wrote a whole paper. I mean, my old band used to write songs about intellectual property laws. I'm not a huge fan of them. So
Yeah. So like I get it, but I think with most things, it's just a polite conversation, really, is what it comes down to.
So you had mentioned being in the front line, like you mentioned festivals like Ghoul being up there in the front.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like being in the front line at shows where it gets a little bit chaotic, maybe I wouldn't say violent, but certainly on the edge of it's not a gentle push pit. It becomes something more.
Yeah. Um, it, you are you are looking around to see uh i- the same thing that I was saying earlier about when I'm observing a band in the first song. And okay, who's the heartbeat of the energy? Who's the core of the energy that's being put out there? I want to see if I can, focus in on that person, right? Then you turn around and you go, uh-oh, there's a pit that's happening behind me. Where's the core of the energy of that pit, and what type of energy is out there, right? Is it a gentle, we're walking around in a circle and doing the circle pit and that's fun? Like I can get into the middle, literally in the middle of those, to hold my camera up, and it's generally pretty cool. If it's one where like fight for survival, and there are people who are throwing fists and throwing feet and going from there, from a subject matter standpoint, fascinating. Like I want to I want to capture that.
Yeah.
I want to try to capture a really cool photo of that. And that's another thing. Like that is something in the back of my mind where it's like, can you get a really cool photo of someone going really really hard in the pit, and also walk out of the pit with your whole self still intact, as a smallish man that I am. So because there are much larger people in there throwing a lot more weight around, but so that's what it is. You look, for me, you look at it from like a subject matter standpoint. Fascinating. You've got a room full of people or a group of people in a large area, uh, seemingly very angry. And if you know the scene, it's usually wine and roses. But from the outsider's perspective, it's like, wow, what other moment in your day or in your week or in your year have you been around 10, 15, 20 people who are literally throwing their fists as fast as they can and kick in the air?
Yes.
Fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. But then, you want to make sure that you come out of there unscathed. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I know Dave Face Photo has some pretty cool stories about him shooting in the pit and coming into work next day with the black eye. So if you can avoid it, great. If not, it also makes for a cool story.
Yeah, Louis got cracked in the head the other day.
Did he? Oh, no shit. Is he all
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, you should have talked to him about it at that last Outsider show. Like blood, like dripping down his face.
Oh, no.
So
Is he all right?
had, pardon me 1 second. I'm gonna. Yeah, he said it was probably the most violent show he'd been to.
Wow.
He had already gotten like hit, and the guy was apologetic. He's like, "It's fine, I'm good." And then he got hit again, and he's like, "I think I might have broken a rib there." And like he's like, someone just like punched him in the side. He's like, I might be done pretty soon. And then he
Yeah.
backed up and was trying to take a couple photos, and he doesn't know if it was a fist to the face or if his own camera got knocked to his face. He's like, I was so blinded by it, I don't even know. I had to go to the back and like get the owner to like give me some like just take care of me. It's like the blood was just streaming down my face.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
But he's
So
okay, though.
he's okay. Yeah, I mean, you
Okay.
saw him on Saturday.
Oh, okay. All right. So it was okay.
It was like the
All
week
right.
before.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad, Lou, glad you're all right. Yeah, I think it's a risk that you certainly are aware of. And I know the photographers are, anything for the shot, and you go and you try to get it and you do that. But again, at some point too, you're also a person who people don't like to get punched in the face. So
I
you don't want
mean,
to get
some
punched in
people
the face.
might, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't want to get punched in the face. So that's where I'm at.
Particularly
But
when you're taking photos.
yeah. If it happens, it's all right. If it's an accident, that's fine. The accidents happen, but yeah.
So like, how much of your process is the editing process? Like, what is the editing process? I mentioned at RPM Fest
Mm-hmm.
that you're spending like 3 hours editing. Is that like 3 hours of just going good crap, good crap, good crap? Or are you like you going in and going, could be good, but let me enlarge it, shift it over to the right, and focus on this aspect?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the editing process, and how is that as important, like, as the photo taking process, or is it less important, or am I splitting hairs here that shouldn't exist?
No, it's all the above.
Yeah.
They're festivals are a little bit different for me for my process. It helps for shows like Snappers, Night Swim, Ruckus. Like I've photographed there so much now that I don't necessarily have to figure out the room per se. I don't have to figure out what the edit's going to look like because you do it so much that you can get to a point where you're like, okay, cool. I know how to bring out the colors that I want to bring out. I know how this room is going to react to the edit, and I do that. Festivals are a little slower for me because it's a place usually I haven't shot before. If it's outside, the light is constantly changing, and then you have like an all day situation where you're shooting in sunlight, which is totally different. Then you're
Sure.
shooting in sunset, which is totally different. Then you're shooting at night with all the lights, which is another third thing that's totally different. Then in the process of editing those photos, the festival photos, and really all shows, you're going through it and going, okay, I like this, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, I like this, I don't like this. But the added layer to festivals is figuring out how you want the image you're trying in your brain that you're trying to put out there. How is that going to come through with this brand new place you've never shot before in various changes? And plus, you also shot like a boatload of photos, so you're trying to get that out. And if you're shooting for a festival, like officially as part of the crew, that you normally want 10 to 15 photos the night, like the day after, like immediately afterwards. So you're now scrambling to be like, all right, what are, like, in your brain, what are my 10 to 15 that I think I got throughout the day? Let me get those, let me edit them, let me composite them, or not composite them, but compose them into a way that makes sense. So you talked about shifting it around, cropping it a little bit, like kind of doing the thing, finding where that piece is. I think very rarely am I bringing a photo in and from the camera and editing it and then not cropping it. You know what I mean? Very
Yeah.
rarely. So but yeah, that's like that's the process from there. I have like a grading system for the photos that I have. It's a 1, 2, and a 3, and then a rejection type of thing. So rejection is just flat out. I'm not gonna even try to edit this. 1, 2, and a 3 is like, 1 is like, this could be something. 2 is like, this is definitely something. 3 is, this is a standout. This is like the shot of the set, shot of the night, shot of something, and you go
That's
from
a
there.
lot of organization.
Got to be organized. There's a shitload of files.
Well, I'm aware. I actually, like, this probably one of the things I feel worse about is like, because I will get a Dropbox folder shared from Dave, and I'll get you to send me your download link, and I'm like, I really wish I was organizing these better. But I'm downloading them, I'm uploading them to, like, I just have a folder, Aaron's photos, Dave's photos, and that's just what it is. Like, I don't have the bandwidth to go through all that and go through it. But then I'm like, well, I'll just reach out to Aaron if I need something.
And that's why I try to stay organized, because there are times where literally months and months after, like either Camp Pennsylvania or RPM, people will reach out and say, hey, I was in the crowd during this set, I saw you, do you have a photo of me? It was my favorite band and this literally happened. A guy was like, I saw you. Sometimes it can come off as like, who the fuck is this person? Because I got a message on Instagram. It was a picture of me that I didn't take, that my friends didn't take, that no one took at Camp Punks, and all it said was, "Is this you?" And I was like, yo, this can go like 8 different ways right now. I don't know if I'm gonna respond to this message. And I was like, yeah, like, what's going on? And then the dude proceeded to tell me that it was It was a band, one of his favorite bands that he was seeing, lifelong bucket list type of thing. And he wanted to take the photo and print it out and blow it up and put it in his studio. And he was wondering if I had a different angle because he was crowd surfing, and I think his wife was there. His wife got one angle where it was facing away from the stage, and it got him crowd surfing,
Yeah.
and I was behind facing the stage. And I was able to get him with his favorite band in the background. And so that happened months afterwards. So if I wasn't organized, I'd be like, I don't know, dude, I got so many photos to go through from Camp Punks. So part of that organization comes through. Or like yourself, where you're like, hey, I need to make a flyer, or I need to like put something together.
I think I should say, hey, you need girth control pictures or whatever it was. And I was like, I know I have some, but I know me scrolling through is going to take far longer than if I just ask you.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like a whole, so I've got a whole, system where all of my like, files from the camera and all that stuff are in a system in my house. And then I back it up with my Photos app in my phone. So if I need to quickly share something on social media, I have a version of that. Or if a band reaches out, that it's all organized in folders that way. So if you were to ask me right now to pull up a photo of Girth Control from the 2 or 3 shows that I shot with them, I could do that fairly quickly, and do that. So
I feel like this is like the processes you said you didn't have before.
Yes, very much so.
Right. This is your like, oh, I have this now. This is what allows me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, because without that, you're going to be drowning. You're going to be drowning you're going to be drowning in folks asking for photos. You're going to be drowning in edits. You're going to be behind in edits. You're going to, you're just going to not set yourself up to be, because then if I go and shoot, especially if a promoter books 8 shows in June or something like that, then, that's a lot of photos to get through. And I go back to thinking about the band that this might be their first show and they're waiting for that, those photos to come out. I don't want to have to, make that band wait for, months and months and months. So, let's try to get them out as fast as we can.
No, you're pretty fast. Like I will literally get up to go to the bathroom in the morning, and then I'll check my phone before I like go back to bed and be like, oh, Aaron's posted more photos. And I was like, okay. I was like, let's do this. I'm like, all right. That's amazing. How many photos do you take per band? Like, do you set yourself? Because like, I imagine you don't want to like take 100 because that's just going to give you more editing work.
No, I want to take more than that.
Shut the fuck.
So you asked about, so last April, it's called in, the photographers listening might recognize this as a spray and pray, where you've got your camera and you're just taking a billion photos. And you do that if you're like, uh-oh, here we go, something's going on, let me just try to like, and you're not necessarily looking for a moment, you're just trying to capture something. I know Dave is really good at limiting his spray and pray moments. I've gotten way better at limiting my spray and pray, especially from April. I remember Rally in the Valley. I got home that night and I was like, this is a shitload of photos I just took. And I was like, there has to be a way to not come home and have to go through literally thousands of photos. That is, we have to do better than that. And the more you want to not sit and go through thousands of photos, the more you want to pick your moments and pick your time and pick your pick your moments. So you're not spraying and praying. I'm looking less through my camera during a show than I am looking through my camera, so I don't know if that made sense. I don't look at my camera a lot. Yeah. When we're doing that, and when you're there, you're ready. But to answer your question, I think a good collection of photos, it also depends on how I'm taking them. If I'm taking them with shutter drag, it's a longer exposure. So it's like click, and then the thing happens. And so it's not like brrr, it's just like click. All right, I'm doing that. And so that inherently reduces the number of photos that come through. But if I'm shooting without a flash, and if I'm shooting with a longer lens and trying to get more, like I mentioned, an 85 millimeter lens that I started shooting with more and more toward the end of last year, there's moments where, there's little bursts in there, like little 10, 20, 30 photo bursts when you're trying to get a thing, and that will increase the numbers. If I come back to my house and I'm like, okay, so each band has about anywhere between 200 to 300 photos. That's pretty good. I'm pretty all right with that. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you miss moments?
All the time.
Like, oh, I wish I caught that.
All the time.
I say that because there are times where I know when I'm playing drums where I do something ridiculously exaggerated, and the photographer will notice and oh. And they come watch me to see if I do it again. And I was like, well, that was it.
That was the moment. Yep.
That was the moment. It's gone.
Yep. And yeah, there's all the time. There's so many photos out there that I wish that I took. There's so many photos that I took that I was like, man, if I was like a half second earlier, that would have been a cool photo. But this one is going in the trash. And I think it comes down to instinct. There was a funny moment where Erie from Albany was playing at Snappers, and I was back behind the drum kit, and Chad, because my band's played with Erie before, so having get to know those guys just a little bit, and I was back behind the kit wanting to take photos of Chad, and he went to go give me a fist bump in between
Yes.
songs, and I just instinctively snapped the photo. And he was like, I was going for a fist bump. What are you doing? I was like, I'm sorry. I'm in camera mode. Snap the photo. Here's the fist bump. Thank you. But that's part of that not wanting to miss a moment,
And maybe it's because I'm a drummer, but I feel like it's hard to get good drummer pictures. There are so many drummer pictures of just the drummer. Maybe it has the sticks moving fast, but it almost just like they're sitting there just holding some drumsticks.
So in my mind, so with growing up with my dad being a drummer and my brother is a drummer, I've photographed my brother. I haven't photographed my dad yet, actually. Now I think about it. I should go photograph one of his gigs coming up. I want to make it cool. Again, I want there to be a cool photo. And if I can get a cool photo of the lead singer, screaming his ass off or screaming her ass off or screaming their ass off, or whatever it might be, whoever's ass is being screamed off of, then I want that same type of energy in for the drummer, or for, again, the bass player might be tucked behind the thing because they're in the back by the drummer. But it is hard to get, in my mind, it is hard to get an image that isn't someone just holding a pair of sticks, right?
Yes.
I often think about drummers as I can't remember what, in my mind, drummers are cartoons, and they are octopuses that are doing this all, through the set, and it's you want to capture this, right?
You want to capture the motion.
I want to capture the motion. I want it to look like it's this thing that's happening with drumstick. It's like an old cartoon where it's like a ball of dust and there's stuff sticking out of the dust. It's like a hand comes up and then a foot is over here and then a hockey stick comes out of the thing. In my mind, that's how drummers look in any band that they play. And so I want to try to capture something similar to that. And that's why, for me, I get really excited when I go behind the kit and I'm like, all right, can we get some really cool, energetic photos of the drummer? Because 99% of the time, drummers are putting in a shitload of energy during the set, and it doesn't necessarily come through if it's just someone holding the stick.
It doesn't translate a lot in photos,
right? Yeah. So that is a goal of mine at every show, is to try to how can I get a rad photo of the drummer to convey the energy they're putting out.
Do you ever take crowd photos, from instead of facing the stage, turn around, get a big crowd shot or anything?
Yep. Yeah, I love taking crowd photos, especially at venues like Snappers. Some of my favorite images were, I remember when the FUs were playing. You remember that show? It was they went on super late for some reason.
Wow, they actually did not go on super late.
Didn't they go on super late? It was around midnight or some shit.
No, it absolutely was not.
I don't know about
No, no,
that.
no. Yeah, that show actually ran super on time, and people were shocked at how much it ran on time.
I don't know about that. I don't
You
know,
talk to
maybe.
Mega Infinity, they're like, that show ran on time.
Well, either way, there was when the FUs were playing, there was a really cool moment, a really cool collective of people who came. They were outside. They came into the venue, and they were just like losing their shit over the FUs. And I think it was people who either had never heard of the FUs, or maybe they knew one song or knew whatever, and they were having a blast. And I had gotten what I needed from the FUs. I got their set photos, and I turned around and was able to grab some really cool moments of these people who were thoroughly enjoying this legendary band. So venues like that and moments like that are great. Venues like Gramercy Theater in Manhattan is a totally different vibe, but the energy is also there as well. Where if you're in the photo pit up there, and and the people in the front row for those shows are absolutely fucking thrilled. Not that they wouldn't be thrilled at Snappers, but like we're talking about front row. You've paid $2, $3, $100 depending on the band. Number one, first of all, crazy, but number two, yeah, man, go do your thing, right? And they're amped to the gills to see this band, right? And I usually strike up a conversation with the folks in the front row, and that is also something that makes for great photos later, because then they start playing to the camera. Halfway through the set, when the band is like reaching out for them, or they're playing to the thing, then now we've had a conversation for 10 or 15 minutes, and we got to, I gave them a sticker, one of my small, tiny little dinky stickers that I have, and and they start to play to the camera, and it just makes for a much more honest photo, because it's someone who is so excited to see their favorite thing that night, and they're like, yeah, here's my stuff. I was shooting Foxy Shazam in December, I think, of last year, and I was unaware that the keyboard player was going to take his keyboard and throw it into the crowd and start playing playing the keyboard while crowd surfing and doing that. And he literally like threw the thing over me, and the security from his band came over and like shoved me aside because they wanted to make sure that he was all right. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I ended up getting up on the barricade and shot a photo of the crowd being his keyboard stand. And there's one person, he actually reached out after the show, and he looks like it is the best day of his life. He's holding up the keyboard, and he's just smiling ear to ear as the guy in his favorite band is playing, and he's part of the thing. And he was, he reached out and said, hey, can I get that photo? And it's me there. And that was the best moment of my life, the whole thing. So I love taking photos. I love taking photos of the crowd, and going from there. Yeah, because it really is um it's a little bit, it's a collaboration, it's a collective, it's not just the band on stage, it's the whole experience in the thing that you want to try to capture. So
That is awesome, dude.
yeah, man.
I mean, this entire it's fascinating because like I find the same thing when I talk to sound engineers,
Mm-hmm.
that even though they do the same thing, their perspectives are different.
Mm-hmm.
Not inherently better or worse, but it's fascinating talking to you after having talked to Dave Face Photo, and just hearing your different backgrounds and experiences and just how you look at things. There's a through line of similarity,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also divergences, which shows up in your art as well, because your photos are not the same, which is one of the things I love best about having the two of you so central to the Hudson Valley, is that like you do not take the same pictures of the same show.
We don't, but I do want to take a moment to say that Dave is a fucking legend, and I want to share a story about Rally in the Valley last year. And you had introduced me to Dave for the first time, and you said, "Hey, this is Aaron. He's going to be taking some photos along with you during the festival." That could have gone, especially how photography world is, that could have gone a million different ways. And Dave, being the awesome person that he is, welcoming person that he is, stuck his hand out and said, "Hey man, welcome. Can't wait to shoot with you." And we had a conversation for, the next 20 minutes on the things we like to shoot and go from there. Never met the guy before. Here's this guy that, you introduced me to. And I'm like, this is my first time taking photos in a few years. I don't know how this is going to go, man. My shit might fucking blow at the end of this night. Who knows how this goes, but here we go. And Dave was so gracious and so welcoming, and he continues to be gracious and welcoming. And that is something that is unfortunately increasingly rare in the arts and in photography as well. It's so stupidly competitive when it doesn't need to be. And Dave himself, I love shooting shows alongside Dave, because you're right, like we get totally different things, and I can't do what Dave does. And I've told him that, I'm like, dude, when your shit hits social media, to me, it sounds like a steel beam hitting concrete. It's like fucking boom, there's your fucking photo, and it slams, and it's awesome, and mine's like, some sort of fucking hippie who's tripping out on his,
but he said the
staring
same thing
into
to me
the
about
galaxy.
your stuff. He's like, I can't do what Aaron does.
But you know what it is,
he
though?
Said he's like, I've tried, but I can't do it.
But it's I respect the shit out of Dave, and I respect his artistic ability, and I respect his approach to building a community around that. And that's what I think is cool, because we've talked about, like, he's like, how do you fucking do what you do? And I'm like, how the fuck do you do what you do? And we share a little bit of back and forth, and that's all right, man. That's cool. Like, it really doesn't need to be photography does not need to be competitive. The arts don't need to be competitive. Like, if you can, I don't know, if you can play guitar at 1,000,000 miles an hour, like, show somebody if they're interested, if they want to learn how to do that. It really doesn't need to be a competition. And, it doesn't matter how many fucking listeners you have on Spotify, how many followers you have on Instagram, how many likes your photo gets. To me, it's, I was asked, I was at Empire Underground, and I was introduced to someone who was like, hey, this is so-and-so, and they want to do what you do. They want to take photos for bands and concerts. Do you mind talking with them? I said, yeah, sure, bring them over. Come on over. And they were like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have my camera. I don't really know how to use it. And I don't know, what should I do? What do I do? Basically, was the conversation. And I've had that conversation a couple of times. What I like to say to people is, the first thing you need to remember is you're doing it. You're out here. There are people at home who want to do this, and there are people at home who want to take photos. They are at home. They are sitting down. They are on their couch. You are here. So that's the rule number one. Go and do it. Rule number two, have fun. And don't be worried about, oh, my photo sucks, or this sucks, or it's whatever. It really is a repetitive, go do, learn, and ask questions. Go up to people and say, how did you get that shot? Or, like, what was your approach? So the whole night at Empire Underground, this photographer would come back to me and go, okay, here's what I got during that set. Because I think there were like 3 bands or something, or 4 bands. And they're like, here's what I got during that set. And we went through their photos, and we went, okay, cool. What were you going for here? And they were like, well, I was trying to get this, and I was trying to do that, and I saw what you were doing. And of course, I'm like fucking bouncing all over the place. And I'm like, you can do that. Come on up. You can do that.
You can do that.
But they were going for something different. And so we talked in between sets, and we're like, okay, so try this next time if this is what you want to go for, and try this next time if this is what you want to go for. Sure shit, come back the next set and like, okay. And I saw the excitement start to rise more and more, because they were like, all right, I got there's one image in here that I was going for, and I got it, and I think I got it. Take a look and go to the thing. So, like, long story to say, we should be, don't judge, teach is my thing. And don't worry about if you're someone who is like, I would like to do this, I don't know if I can. You can do it. Go and do it. That's the most important thing.
All right. I'll stop there. So if anyone thought I was being hyperbolic at the beginning of this, when I said how kind and awesome Aaron was, if you just listen to the last 5 minutes, you realized how I was probably understating it. So everything you're saying is why you are so vital to our scene and why I consider you one of my newest, closest friends. Like, you are just such a good person. I love what you do for yourself, your art, and thank you for that. And I think if everyone did that across, whether it's music, whether it's photography, whether it's painting, whether it's anything in the world, like you said, don't judge, teach. I think that's just, as a former teacher, which, by the way, we were forced to judge a lot as teachers.
Well, I appreciate your kind words, and I know it gets said at shows that you put on, and I know, but I don't think that we should stop shouting out the hard work that you are putting in, and the unbelievable community that is DCPC and Hudson Valley and Outsider Magazine and the folks at Reason and Ruckus and Night Swim and all this fucking rad shit that is going down in the Hudson Valley, right on down through to New York City.
Yep.
It's
And all
awesome.
the way up to Albany and Troy.
Exactly, right.
El Dorado should be opening up again in February.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So it's, and I think it embody what you are doing, and why people and no pun intended about rallying the valley, why people are rallying behind you is because you are out there doing it, and people see that, and people go, oh shit, yeah, I can go hang a flyer up, I can put a show on, I can organize something in a way that is fun, thoughtful, and important, because again, none of this shit's guaranteed, so hang on tight.
I mean, I agree. And thank you so much. It's very kind of you. And as you said, the important is God, I don't really like doing Nike slogan, but like, if you don't get out and do it, like, I often will say, I was like, all I'm doing is putting on shows,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm putting on shows. I mean, I could walk in, like, how many times I book a tour, and if I can't find a promoter or venue to respond, I'll start going through bands. And then I remember bands like, oh, we don't put on shows. I'm like, well, who the frick does then? Who's putting on the damn shows if no one in the band is doing it? Like, I don't understand. Like, how are there shows in your area? It's like someone has to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be as big as putting on a show. I think about musician friends of mine or artist friends of mine who never put anything out, and they are amazing. And it's not that, and again, don't get me wrong, this is not for the gram, this is not for it's not for social media, it's not for the thing, but there are people who sometimes, and I get it. You're like, you know what? I'm doing it for me. I don't need to put it out. Fuck you. Okay, cool. Got it. No problem. You know, but the people who second guess themselves, just know that there are people out there who want to see and experience your art.
Yes.
You know,
and want to help you
exactly.
and support you, and don't consider something not being perfect, not being good. Yeah, I think I've said this phrase many times, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Things are very rarely perfect, but
Right.
good is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if you're, if we were talking about bands that, were on stage and it might be their first show and all that, and the build up to that is real. And before you even play a note, before you click your shutter, before you do anything, the most important thing is that you're on that stage, you're in that venue, you're
You
out
showed
of
up.
your door. Exactly. Right. Everything else after that is just a byproduct. And the more and more you do it, the more you're going to figure yourself out as an artist, the more you're going to figure yourself out as a musician, the more you're going to figure out what makes you tick and what makes you want to create something. Because the other thing is, it's not imitation, it's your creation. That's the other thing, so.
Fair enough. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
I mean, I could talk to you forever all day long, but I try to keep these episodes to an hour. We're already in an hour 23. So,
okay. All right.
I just try to respect other people's time. I'm going to have links to all of Aaron's stuff in the show description. So please go to Aaron's website, go to his Instagram, follow him, check out all his photos. Please also, if you enjoyed this podcast, please follow the podcast. Please share the podcast. Go to dcxpclive.com, subscribe to our email for shows, vinyl, podcasts, and more. I thank you all so very much for listening. And Aaron, I cannot thank you enough for how much you've made my life better.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough either. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, my buddy. I'm going to hit stop now because that's what has to happen.
Okay.